All right. Good day, everybody. Thank you for joining us on yet another phenomenal episode of the podcast. And in today's episode, we have a phenomenal guest with us in the studio. We have Mr. Azeez Salawu. He is a food systems development practitioner who is passionate about mobilizing youth for agricultural sector and also climate actions. He's keen about food, nutrition, and food security, as well as sustainable development in Nigeria. He brings an extensive experience in championing, designing, and advocating and stakeholders engagement, particularly in communication, social media strategy, and facilitations of trainings and dialogue sessions. He's the founder of Community Action for Food Security Initiative, a non-profit organization advancing food secure Africa through sustainable agricultural practices, livelihood support, advocacy aligned with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 1, 2, 5, 13, and 17. Mr. Aziz serves as the technical committee for implementation of United Nations Food Systems Summit outcome, where he coordinates youth engagement with Nigeria's national convener. He's also a Climate 2020 ambassador. Interesting. The recipient of Africa Rise Research Scholarship and also the winner of NYC FCT Honor Award for Outstanding Community Service. He's an active member of several global platforms, including the Act for Food, Act for Change campaign, FAO Global Forum on Food Security, Nutrition, and Global Food Security Cluster. Mr. Aziz, welcome to the podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic.
It's awesome to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. All right, so we'll delve into the conversation. Our subject matter discussed today is awakening Africans' food culture, starting out from a point of awareness to action. So my very first question, as we begin this interaction, is many Africans are gradually losing touch with indigenous food systems. So, what does reawakening the African food culture means to you, and why is it critical for our identity and sustainability today?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think for me, reawakening Africa's food culture means rediscovering and reclaiming the dignity that is actually really embedded in our indigenous food system. So long before now, everybody talks about agriculture, and a lot of things seems fragmented. But since post-COVID, when the UN Secretary General called for a food systems summit, a lot of things has actually, rightly changed, and everybody is now understanding that for agriculture to really, work the way we really want it to be, there is need for us to work together strategically, understanding that as a farmer, you need, policy, you need the business side of it, you need transportation, you need to make sure that, you're adding value to some of these things. And that is what the food systems, it's really all about. So, reawakening in African culture, it's not really only about, just the meals on our plates. It's really, about reconnecting with, some of our heritage, our soil, and also our ecological balance. These are some of the things that actually sustained our ancestors, and long before the advent of the modern agriculture we know about. So when we lose touch with with our traditional foods, we really lose part of who we are. So there is need for us to understand that our indigenous meal or food has actually, or crop, they've actually been with us, and we need to find a way to make sure that we are working towards making sure that we still align with them, and that we find a way to transform them and make it to continue to be part of who we are and what we do. So there's need for us to really make sure that we are working towards achieving, through sustainability, food sovereignty, and also area diet for our people, using some of these, African, food culture, which is about who we actually are. And by this, we are, restoring our pride in African food, and also ensuring that, what nourishes us also, preserves our planet. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's such insightful way to answer that question. So my next question at this time is, from your own experience, what would you say are some of like the mindsets barriers that prevents young people from seeing agriculture and food production as a viable and honorable pursuit?
All right. So the biggest barrier is, is actually perception. For a long period of time, agriculture has actually been viewed as, a field of, drudgery, rather than a space for innovation. So, many young people, of course, we've worked with a lot of young people who still, associate agriculture, with poverty, with low prestige, and also, outdated method. And think agriculture is actually a business. It's also a science, and is really a key driver of our national development. So through the work we do, we've been able to see where young people have been exposed to different value chains, different technology, and also opportunity, within the agri-food system, agri value chain, such as digital farming, processing, packaging. Now people now understand that you actually don't have to be on the field to call yourself a farmer. You can package some of those things and sell. You can, start advertising. You can do a lot of online stuff, with what you actually do, or connect it with, the food or food production or processing or any part of the agricultural value chain. And this is really where we now need to start, making sure that we even shelve that part where we will say that we are changing the story from, farm to fork, to idea to impact, because we really need to, you know think rethink the way we actually see agriculture, which is really, for us to start seeing it as a sector of purpose, creativity, and also, prosperity. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Interestingly, some of the concepts and ideas you just shared are some of the things that I highlighted mostly on in my recent book, Agriculture Beyond Farming, A Pathway to Economic Prosperity. So thank you for also sort of stressing those points there as well. My next question at this time is, you are the lead of the World Food Forum, Nigeria region, Nigerian chapter. So what would you say are like some of the creative approach you sort of implemented or you're implementing to inspire young people to take part in the food system transformation?
All right. So just to also, state that I'm actually the co-lead. I'm co-leading with Femi Adekoya, the flying farmer. So we're working together with under all of our ESCO to make sure that we're actually building a solid foundation for what we call Nigerian chapter. And to also mention that we're actually just trying to set it up in sense that a lot of things we've actually been doing, not official yet, and we are hoping that before the end of this year, what we from Nigerian chapter would get officially launched here in Nigeria, of course, with support from the FAO and also other development partners and stakeholders across the food systems, value chain in Nigeria. And to also mention that What Food Forum is a network of networks, and we our approach as is to actually, be a youth co-creation hub for designing different programs that would really help young people and to develop their capacity to show themselves, and also to really get to understand the policies and strategies around food systems, and also identify their area of strength and niche going forward, because the sector is actually very large, and a lot of young people are still trying to find their balance. And so it's actually very important that what it from is coming on board, and to be a network of different networks, and to say that of course the activities around young people has actually increased. You know, being a member of the national tax team on food systems engagements in Nigeria, where we recently launched youth mapping for food systems transformation, profiling Nigerian young people, driving innovation across food production, processing, nutrition, and also waste reduction. So it's really it's more than it's really more than we are doing some of these things. If we really want to transform our food systems, and we are saying that young people are actually going to lead, we can't lead without data. We can't lead without knowing ourselves. We can't lead without understanding the role each of us play, in the food systems value chain. And this was actually what brought about the mapping. And hopefully, we are planning now to commence some of the implementations from the findings or the recommendations that came out of the mapping. And like I said, everything would now be embedded, with different networks. Nigeria is actually very big, and there are different networks. And what we just need to do is to, start identifying ourselves, start getting to know ourselves, and start collaborating, to transform, food systems. So it's going to be a very long journey, but the foundation is supposed to be a very solid one, so that we are able to hand over to other young people coming on board to meet something like a blueprint print that can actually that they can follow for the sake of sustainability, and also long, short, and medium term projections. So a lot of young people are already taking lead, just like you, doing a lot of things, showcasing different global citizens working across the food systems value chain, which is actually what we need. Because whether we like it or not, we can't do without marketing, we can't do without publicity, we can't do without information and communication technology. And this is part of actually what we need to get ourselves right where we actually want to be. I think I'd like to stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Azeez. Such a succinct way to answer that question. So now my next question is around policies, right? I was saying to someone the other day, I said, one of the things was NASA from Zambia. I was saying to her that I personally believe that the transformation we seek would come from Africans solving the problem of Africa, or Nigerians solving the problem of Nigeria. However, we still need the government to create like enabling environments and enabling policies to see effective executions of those, agendas. So now my next question is around policies. What would you say are some of like the policies or government actions that must be taken urgently to sort of revive or sustain our current food system across the country or across the continent?
All right, thank you. So just to also, put it out there that, policy that would, outlive, that have outlived everyone, or outlive, the current situation on ground, are the ones that are co-created not only by governments, but, by every stakeholders. And what I've come to, really understand in my journey as a, as the food systems policy, development practitioner, is that there is need for some of these policies, to be co-owned by different people in different, value chain. Because for example now, if for example, let me take the native policy of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture as an example. It's a very robust policy, it's very holistic, and it's very very strategic. But then there is need for different stakeholders to actually take their own parts, at different parts in different bits by bits inside those policies. For example, people doing cold chain, they are well captured. People doing agroecology, agroforestry are well captured. There's need for that chunk of, or that network of different people or different associations to take ownership of some of those things and start implementing and linking them up, to really cascade, you know, across board. So, but urgently, the three actions that actually, that is very urgent to revive and sustain local food systems across Africa. Talking about policies, the first one is policy coherence, which means that we need to align the alignment between agricultural, trade, and also health policies, to prioritize local food and farmers. It's actually very, very, that alignment is sacrosanct. We cannot do without it. The second one is investment in research and local seed systems. There's
Yeah.
need for us to start supporting indigenous crops, that are resilient to climate change. And, we need to take ownership of those research, so that, because
True.
when we take ownership of them, and the funding and the investment is coming directly from the government, we would know what to do, and would know how to disseminate the information appropriately. So we need to
Yeah.
take ownership of some of those things. And investment is actually very key, for in research. Then the third one is institutional support for young people and women, especially across the agri-food systems value chain. Through financing, training, market access is actually very broad. And I still tell different stakeholders when I have the opportunity to speak that agribusiness alone would not take us to where we want. There is
Mm.
need to make sure we are balancing all of these things as we are building and empowering young people doing business or doing business. We need to empower people that are interested in advocacy. We need to
Yeah.
empower young researchers that would
Yes.
help us, to sustain some of these things we're actually doing. We need to
Mm.
empower people, across the value chain, and that is when it will be more robust, and different sector will be assisting because you can imagine a business person is all about his profit, raise our profits. But
Yeah.
then, if we are able to also, develop other young people, build their capacity around policy, build their capacity around, post-harvest, value chain, build their capacity around investment opportunities, it would,
Yeah.
in turn, at the end of the day, call across. So there's need for that institutional support to make all of these things we're actually building and saying are more sustainable. And, government must also integrate local food education into school feeding programs, so that the
Mm.
next generation of people, or students, grow up valuing African food. We actually cannot do without African food. I
True.
was having breakfast in Addis this morning, and I was eating some. I think that thing is I don't know. I think it's fonio. I can't know, but it's their local dish. They
Mm.
can't. It's not, it's something that whether you want to eat it or you don't like it, or you have to just embrace it. So we also need to continue to embrace some of those local delicacies, which is are very important for our culture and heritage. So all of these
Yeah.
things together are actually what we need, especially across different countries, across Africa, and then we'll blow it globally. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. So my next question at this time is around technology and innovation. So how can we sort of integrate innovation and technology into traditional farming and food systems practice without losing the cultural essence of the African cuisine?
Yeah, I think for me, we must, treat innovation as a bridge, not a replacement. And that
Mm,
is the future of anything we're actually building. We need to start treating innovation, as a bridge, not replacement. Technology should amplify. not erase, traditional wisdom. So it's actually
Mm.
very important for, yes, there are a lot of new innovations. We have precision farming, we have
Yeah.
climate smart practices, we have different digital platforms. But then, there should also, be a way, to make indigenous practices more efficient and scalable. And that is
Yeah.
the only way we can actually get it right. For example, AI can help farmers to optimize planting schedules, even for local crops. And, mobile apps can also do the same, connect, rural women or rural dwellers or people in the, rural community, producing traditional foods to urban markets. These are what technology can actually do, an enabler. So what matters in all of this is that, we preserve the essence, which is the story, the rituals, and also some of the, common communal bounds, around food, while using technology to sustain some of these, or some of them, for future generation. But whether we like it or not, rural communities will always be there. The urban city will
Mm.
always be there. When we
Yeah.
visit our villages with our grandfathers and our grandmothers in the villages, some of these traditional foods are what, still keeps them alive up to this moment. So there's need for us to make sure that technology is, being used to sustain them, for future
Mm.
generations, not to replace some of the foods. Thank you.
Fantastic. I like how you put it that technology should be a bridge and not a total replacement. It's an enabler. Thank you so much for highlighting that. So my next question is around the work that you do. So from your work with Community Action for Food Security Initiative, what are some of like the grassroots success stories that best illustrate that you've experienced, that sort of best illustrates how local communities can lead the change in food culture revival?
Well, I think the first one I would share is, in an example, is our school garden project in different, public secondary schools across the country. Where we go, to do a sort of mindset change, for these young people to actually, embrace agriculture, embrace, food itself, and food
Mm,
systems as life. Because when we're growing up, when they ask us what we want to become, in the future, nobody wants to be a farmer, but now
mm,
we are, there to ask them simple question like, even the cornflakes and some of those things you actually consume. Do you know where it comes from? Do you know where what they are made of and all of that? And this actually, sparks their interest even before we go to, the field to do the practical aspect of it. And this has really helped them to, to learn more about nutrition, sustainability, and also a bit of, entrepreneurship, because some of the produce they harvest from their crop, from their school farm.
ah,
Some of them are being taken to their kitchen, and the farm leadership amongst themselves. And for us, the fulfillment is that as they grow, when they see some of these things as they grow, they're able to, relate. They can easily relate to what they did while they were in school. And it's really been a lot of, process of combining knowledge, culture and cooperation. And by this they are becoming a catalyst of change. So another one is, our pre-season trainings that we actually do every year, for small scale farmers, where we scale, climate information services for especially women-led cooperatives in some of these rural communities, which has really helped them, to sustain a lot of things they actually do in the field, because, the vulnerability around, rural women participation is actually very, very high. And we are trying as
yeah,
much as possible to make, the community leaders understand some of these things are barrier, because they also understand that, a lot of the things we consume in the urban city are being produced by these rural women in the rural community. So a lot of some of these, engagements, information sharing and knowledge, with them, has really helped them improve a lot, in their productivity, and, reduce wastage, and also give them access to some different markets and also other exposures. Because we also invite some of them for programs, you know, even in town, where we invite them to share their story and also, begin to understand how a lot of things are actually being done, and also making sure their voice is also captured, at some of these, programs. And this has really gone a long way to really restore a lot of communal beefs and crises, within some of these communities. So I think I'm happy to share those two, and maybe to wrap up that we've actually been able to engage over 20,000 smallholder farmers, youth, and women, directly and indirectly in over 30 communities across Nigeria. Thank you.
That's really great. Phenomenal track record you guys have. Thank you also for sharing that as well. So this would be my second to my final question, which is looking ahead, what does a food secure and culturally awakened Africa or Nigeria looks like to you? And what would you say are some of like the collective actions that we must take right now to achieve that?
Well, a food secure and culturally awakened Africa is one, or the one I envision is one where every community, eats what they grow, value what they eat, and also sustain what they value. It's an African. It should be an Africa, yeah, where young people are not just participants, but architects of some of these things, especially when it comes to transforming the food systems. Where women
Yeah.
are actually recognized, as custodians of the food wisdom, and where local crops feed global innovation. Enough of all of this, tokenism, and also a situation where young people are actually seen as beneficiaries. There is need for us to for 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 us to be part of some of this process, just like you rightly mentioned earlier, that it's quite easy for a young person to maybe advise or motivate a fellow young person through training or capacity building. But in a situation
Yeah.
where when you're organizing capacity building or any form of training or empowerment for young people, you know it should be by young people, so that it easily sinks, and they can
Yeah.
easily adapt and fit with some of those things, and that will make it more sustainable. And to achieve this, we actually must act collectively, like I mentioned the other time. The governments must do their bits to make sure
Yeah.
that a lot of all of these policies are being implemented, and also they are making sure that there's a very strategic implementation framework that would be duly monitored, and evaluated. The private sector, investing in different innovation, researchers focusing on owning some of these, research around, especially around indigenous crops, and young people
Yeah.
driving some of all of these changes. I strongly believe that if we unite knowledge, culture, and innovation with tradition, Africa will not only feed itself but also nourish the world. So I think that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Aziz. And this is my final question. And it's like the question I usually ask every single of my guests before they leave. And it's a question around for a young person listening to this that will watch this session, the replay, or people listening to it right now, particularly young people that are sort of contemplating whether or not to become active participants or active stakeholders within the food system sector. What would you say to that person? I say this because um, let me just give you context. I say this because I've engaged with a lot of young people across the country that are studying agriculture, whether state schools, private schools, or federal schools, that typically do not have the interest of any sort to go practice because they're like, nah, not for me. So, what would you say to that person?
Well, I think maybe I can actually share a bit of my story.
Oh,
I
great!
chose computer science.
Wow.
I was given agricultural science, and I just had to go to the school. It's actually a Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta in Ogun State, and I
Wow.
was there, studying at all, but I picked interest, real interest when I went for. There's usually this 1 year farm practical year that we do, and they take us out of the university community to another entire community, and from there we were given different tasks, and we have to play our own parts to do some of those things. And that was when I got to know how to use the cutlass well, and that was when I saw the practicality of propagating those tiny vegetable seeds and seeing them grow, wetting them day and night, and getting the results. And that was actually where it's actually all began. And of course, I was able to get my feet, or get a sort of balance when I during my NYSC. So I was opportune to be posted to IIT in Abuja, and that was where I got to know what R for D means, research development, research for
Yeah.
development, and what impact actually means. And I got to understand how some of these little things that we even don't see, how young farmers value them, and how
Mhm.
rural dwellers actually value them. It's actually very, very important. So what I would say to anybody doing, maybe it's that everybody that is studying agriculture in school or anything, is that it's actually very, very valuable. Should I shock you? There
Please
is
do.
no uh, there is no agricultural course that is actually not valuable, because when
Mhm.
you look at it, there's actually no crop, or maybe any agro value chain that does not have an association. And the way
Mhm.
they have it locally, they have it regionally, they have it internationally. You know,
Yeah.
we have a whole institution talking about food safety. We have a whole institution both locally and internationally talking about animal husbandry, talking about animal nutrition, talking about animal production and health, talking about soil science.
Mhm.
Recently, during the World Food Forum, the Minister of Agriculture launched the soil health card. So there is need. Most important thing is for you to understand that yes, it is food systems, and for you to now identify where your own strength is, and align it with some of the skills you need to stand out. So it's actually very important for every one of us to understand, our area perfectly.
Mhm.
If you're a business person, you would know from while you are small. Then a lot of things that we were doing while we were in school, we feel that we're actually just doing it, but it gets to a point where some of those things start connecting, and that is
Yeah.
where we're able to find our purpose and stick to it. And also, it's very, very important for you to build your personal brand, for you to be identified for one thing. Then others can
Yeah.
actually be the second. There should be a primary thing. If they mention, oh, if they mention public health, they should be able to mention a young person that is very strong around public health. If they mention agribusiness, for example, if they mention growth in agriculture, Femi is there, flying farmer. Do you understand? So all of those things are what stands you out. And don't even think of, oh, this is not working, you want to move, except you don't have like a personal conviction that is actually going to work. But if you
Yeah.
have that personal conviction, you put in a lot of efforts, and you are not a lazy person. And also, to also mention that you need to be a go-getter, you need to be result oriented. Anything at all you're actually doing, you need to be consistent with it, and you need to make sure that you're adding value to people's lives with what you do, because that is actually what is going to turn back as to be for your own benefit. So, and everywhere I go, I make sure I add value to anybody I actually meet there for what is actually happening there. And that has been one of the things that actually, that has really helped me. So there is need for us to, when you're entering a particular community or an association, you think of the value you are bringing on board. You see yourself as an
Yeah.
asset. Then all other things would would really go smoothly. So I would advise them not to really give up, but then to identify the purpose, identify their area of strength, build their capacity. It's actually very, very important. Now we are talking about the future of work. We are talking about the future of food systems. It's actually
Yeah.
very key for us to equip ourselves, build our capacity, and understand the different skill sets that is needed. To make to enable us add value to all of these processes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aziz. It's just been an enlightening and informative session with you today on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your expertise, and your knowledge with the community today. Thank you so, so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a very awesome one. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the outcome and also what we're actually going to do together.
Sure, sure, definitely.